I assume now you all are ready to start learning machine learning and data science, or you are ready to work on your first project in machine learning or data science. So think for a while, what do you need in order to begin your work? You need to have some kind of a programming environment to computer program code, to get data from various sources, do some data analysis using basic statistics, or like applying some advanced analysis techniques. And then you need to have some kind of a tool or tool set to do data visualizations, to present your results, or to have like a better understanding on your data. And you need to have some tools to organize your data, store it for future use, and to do some advanced analytics techniques such as like building machine learning models and apply some other advanced methodologies. So what you will be choosing as a programming tool for this work? So it's the most common these days in data science and machine learning applications. We are using Python as a programming language. So on top of Python, we have like a lot of libraries built using Python or supporting Python programming language. Will be helping you to do many data science and machine learning work. For example, for machine learning, data visualization, data analysis, and to organize data and to gather data from various sources, like many other things like we discussed. Before we do anything, we need to have that Python programming environment installed in our local computing environment. If you want to use Python in a cloud computing environment, or use Python over internet, so it is also possible. So those are the two main choices: either you install locally or use a cloud offering of a Python programming platform. There are many free platforms available. For example, Google Colab, you can use it for free. You can create a Google account and you can use. So we will be using when we are doing some projects in this course, we will be using Google Colab. You don't need to install anything in your local computer. You can use in the cloud right away. If you were to install Python in your local computer, so today we are guiding you to install Python in your local computer from scratch. So what does that mean by scratch? So you have two choices. Either you can install Python from a distribution, so distributions such as Anaconda Python distribution, which comes all the Python packages or libraries together in a one installer. So you can just run the installer and it will install everything you need to begin with your data science and machine learning work. If you want to install from scratch, that means we are beginning with installing Python based environment, which is the Python interpreter we get from python.org. So that does not come with other external libraries. What we will be doing is we are first installing that Python environment, and then we are installing all required libraries one by one from our side. So that will be a tedious task in some situations. You need to like install multiple libraries, probably 10, probably 20, depending on your work, depending on what libraries required to complete your work. But we will go through some essential libraries for you to work on a machine learning or data science project. So let's move forward with that. First, let's learn, or let's work together to install Python in your computer. First thing you need to do is you have to go to a web browser, and then you can search Python in that web browser. So I'm going to search Python here, and then you will get into Python website. You will get the link to Python website, so python.org. Okay, I think everybody is now ready to install Python in your local computing environment. So the first thing we should be doing is go to python.org, which is the official page of Python programming language, which contain all the repositories related to the installations and Python documentation, as well as many tutorials. So I will go to the website first and get you introduced into the official Python website. As you see here, you have some navigation on the menu bar. You have the about, downloads, documentation, community, success stories, news and events. So if you go to the about section, so you will find out more information about the Python programming language and how to begin with Python programming and what are the users or applications and how the Python ecosystem is maintained. So you can get some basic understanding of how Python programming language being developed and maintained. So one thing I need to add here is it is maintained by a community which comes from different industries, different corporations, different academic institutions, and people with various backgrounds and levels of engagement with the technology. So they're working together. This is a community project which is free and open source software initiative under, and it is maintained and available for free of charge. So you may also join to this community, and there are ways of joining to the Python Software Foundation, which is the governing body of Python programming language, and you can also contribute to the development of Python programming language. And few things you need to understand here is there's a Python package index, so you have called a PyPI, so that's a Python package index that is available for people who would like to contribute to Python programming language with their libraries or the packages they are developing external to the Python base system. So which is we are going to download today, like the base environment, which includes the Python interpreter and the built-in libraries included with it. So if you go to the downloads, so you will find out what are the versions recently made available. So you will see Python 3.11 is the latest version, and as you see here, the most recent version is Python 3.11.2, and which was released on February 8th. So that was the most recent Python version. So there are other versions also available for you to download. You have Python 3.10, which the latest version 3.10.10 released February 8 on the same day as 3.11.2, and 3.9, 3.8, 3.7. So they are the ones currently supported, like currently actively supported, which means so they are the Python Software Foundation or the development efforts are going to issue patches or the updates for security patches or any other bug fixes and everything. They are supporting Python 3.7 up until 2023 June 27, and Python 3.11, which is the most recent version, supposed to support up until 2027 October. So one piece of advice, if you were to choose which version of Python to be used in your project or your work, so pay attention to these two things. So you have to balance between the support or the end of support period, because you wanted to have your product without like bugs from the Python programming languages. So if any bugs or any issues, security issues came in, so that need to be resolved. So therefore it's not a good idea to use Python 3.7 at this point, or maybe Python 3.8 or Python 3.9 could be avoided if you think your project's next upgrade or the next Python environment upgrade could be like beyond like next 3 years. So you may go with Python 3.10 in that case. So if you go to Python 3.11, so what are the issues is the Python, this base Python environment is not capable of doing a lot of other stuff like the data analysis, machine learning, and data work we were supposed to do in the coming lessons. So you need to install a lot of external libraries. There could be the dependencies of these external libraries may not be compatible with the most recent Python version. That's something we need to think about, because these libraries are built from a different community. Some of them are like kind of overlapped communities, but some of them are maintained or developed by a different community than the people who are developing this Python based environment. So in that case, your external libraries may have some compatibility issues if you use most recent version. So to be on safe side, I would go with one version below the current latest release. So I would go with Python 3.10 in that case, to be on the safe side. So it is also supported up until 2026, which is good enough for us to keep running our systems for next 3-4 years. Okay, so for now, for this exercise, I'm going to install the most recent Python version, so which is 3.11.2. I would like to experiment with the most recent version. If you would like, you may do so. If you think about potential issues with the compatibility with the other libraries we're supposed to install as the next steps, you may downgrade your version to 3.10. Okay, so let's move forward with the 3.11. And few other things you note here. You see the different versions of Python available if depending on your operating system. If you are using Windows, so I'm using a Windows computer, therefore I'm being prompted to download Windows version of the Python installer. If you use Linux or Mac OS or any other operating system, you can choose your downloader based on the operating system you will be using. So I'm going to hit okay. So let's look at the other parts of the website. Documentation. Like I said, this Python programming language, or the development of the Python programming language, is maintained by like a broad community. So that's an effort. So governing under Python Software Foundation. Many people contributed to development and documentation, like with some tutorials and some good documentation, up to date, keeping them up to date. So there are a lot of things available. If you go to the documentation section, you will find out a lot of resources for a beginner or to a moderate user or advanced user who is using Python for your day-to-day work, building some advanced computing tools, or doing the data analysis or data science, machine learning related work. So this will be a good resource to browse and get your answers for your questions. If you have any issues, you probably this could be the first place you should be looking. And if there are any bugs, any security issues, so this could be a place you will get to know about for the first time, right? So you will have a lot of resources under documentation, so that be a good user of it. So if you are a beginner, I would highly encourage you to go to beginner's guide and read about Python FAQs. And if you are a moderate user, you can read more about the language, and some periodicals are also available to keep you up to date with the language and its development. And if you are an advanced user, you have more stuff there. Okay, so enough about the documentation. If you go to the community page, so you will find out how the Python community is being organized, and what are the current events, and what are the things you have available for you to access there. And you can connect to the communities using Discord and Slack or the LinkedIn page groups or pages. It's available, so everything will be available here. So how you can interact with other members of the Python community, you will find out if you go to this web page. And then you can find out success stories, how Python being used in different organizations and different industries and different domains. So you'll find out some examples if you wanted to read more about it and get to know how the Python is being used in your industry or your related to your applications. For example, if you are working in a scientific community, so you can read about how Python used by other scientific research teams, or like you can get some ideas for your work. And if you wanted to keep up to date about the news related to Python programming language, for new releases, events, workshops, or could be seminars or conferences, you will get to know about these things under news and events. So you can browse them. Sometimes you can sign up for alerts, and then you will get the email alerts for each and every event in your area or internationally. Alright, so enough about the web page. So let's go to the download page again, and we will install Python 3.11.2, and I'm going to click this button and let the downloader to be downloaded into, or installer to be downloaded into my computing environment. So it is being downloaded, and now I'm going to install Python into my computer. So what I need to do is, after downloading the Python installer, it is about I think 25 megabytes in size. Usual, you all did some software installation in your computer. This is not something new to most of you. What you need to do is, you need to click on the installer, and it will start installing. So before we move forward, it will give you a prompt whether it should be installed to your local computer, which folder in your local computer. So you can install into under your user account, so that is only available to you if you are using a multi-user computing environment or a laptop or a PC. So this will probably available to you only if you install with this first option, that is the default, right? any other users using the same computer may not be use Python in that case. If you want to do a system-wide installation, you can click on this custom installation option, and that will enable you to provide a different path. Every user can be access the Python programming language. Every user should be able to use in that case. And also you can add Python to the system path. So that means if you wanted to run any Python application from command line or within your operating system, that will know that the Python interpreter is installed, and it will use this Python version you are going to install to run that Python script by default. Otherwise, you may need to give full path to your Python interpreter. We will get to know more about this thing later. If you want to give them full path to your interpreter or be on the Python installation folder to run any Python script. Okay, so I'm going to choose the customized installation to make this distribution or make this Python installation available to all users of this computer. So when you choose this option, it will ask some other optional features. The first thing it will ask about whether you need the documentation. I think it's a good idea to have it, so have the documentation installed, so that will be helpful for you to run if you don't want to get connected to internet all the time. So your documentation will be available to you in your computer. And the pip is the Python installers. If you wanted to install any external libraries, of course we will need, like we need to install libraries for our data visualization, we need to install libraries for our data analysis and data manipulation, and some machine learning libraries. Those are external libraries not included in this base Python installation. So they are maintained by external groups or external communities. We may need to install them separately one by one. Don't worry, we are going to do that here as well for you to get familiar with that installation process. So the pip should be installed in that case. You can also install this TCL/TK. This is an IDLE, will be available to you to interact with Python programming language after you install. So you can run some Python scripts and you can execute them, and you can interact with the environment, Python environment with this simple IDLE. And then you can also install the test suite. We will discuss about this in a later time. This is not very important for our data science and machine learning applications at this point, but it would be good to install your test suite as well. And PyLauncher will be available for you to in order to make available for all users. So you need to have admin privilege. Remember, if you don't have admin privilege to this computer, you may still install with the first option it was given to you, and it will only install for you within your user account. If you have admin privilege, you can install for all users. So this PyLauncher will make it easier to start Python for all users. So when you are using Python, you will get to know about it. So we are going to choose all the features here. If you think any feature you don't need, you can uncheck. I'm going to hit a next button here to move forward with the installation. So there you will find out some more options. One option will be to install Python 3.11 for all users. Other options will be available to you, whether I add Python to environment variables, so which is basically adding Python to your system path, and then you can precompile some standard libraries. You can say download debugging symbols. Many other options are available. I'm not going to choose any of them, but I would choose one of the option here, which is install Python 3.11 for all users, because I want to install a system-wide I want to do a system-wide installation to make it available to all users and not limited to me. You see, if you uncheck this, your installation path will be under your user account, so it will be installed in your local user account. But if you choose install Python to all users, it will change it to installation under C program files, and then it will create a Python folder for you. You can choose any folder name, but here by default it choose like Python 3.11. I would use it like as it is without any changes. If you wish, you can do like, if you don't want this 3.11, you can take it to Python. So let's use that. So now my Python is to be installed in C program files and Python folder. You can also browse and then select a folder for where to locate like where you should be installing. So everything is done now. I will let it install and I will hit the install button. So once you hit next, it will ask some credentials to you, and it will ask the password. If you are not, if you are an admin user, it will ask the password to verify you are the admin user and you have enough credentials to install for all users, because I'm going to install it for all users, not only for myself. So let's give some time for it to install, and then it will prompt us and say installation is complete. So let's wait few seconds. So while we are waiting, so let's look at other stuff we can browse. So if you go to the documentation again, you will find out there will be Python FAQ. So frequently asked questions, you can read more about it. What are the general Python frequently asked questions? You can read, and you can, if you have any question, you can also search. You can do a quick search and you can see whether your answer appear here. So before you go to Stack Overflow or any other repository, it's always good to check in the Python website if this question is being asked. So because some of the most recent question could come here. Okay, so let's go back to our installer and see whether installer is done. Okay, so it's still being installed. So at the very last steps, I think. Okay, it was done successfully. Congratulations. If you are at this stage, you now have a Python version installed, a working Python version or in Python environment installed in your computer. You can use it for many different things, not limited to data science or machine learning work. You can build Python applications with it. You can run simple Python script to do your task. But wait for a while. This distribution does not come with all the libraries required to do our data science or machine learning work. We have to install that. So we will be doing that in our next steps. Before we move forward, so I'm going to introduce you a few things available in the Python website. So your links will be appear here in the message after installation. You will see the online tutorial. I'm going to click on the online tutorial for now. If you wanted to navigate through the Python, like we already got introduced to the beginners tutorial, but this is also a good one if you would like to know more about Python and some of the syntax and everything. So this, you can also use the Python tutorial available in the Python website. So let me go back to the installer. There's another link up here, the documentation. So the documentation for Python 3.11.2 is available here. So this will be a good resource for you to find out any question you had or any issue you are dealing with right now in your coding. You probably search here and find it out whether it's appear here. And if you are using a different Python version, you can go to this documentation and you can still see the documentation for other versions as well. Some older versions also appear here. If you wanted to go to say like Python 3.10, so you can find out the documentation for that version, Python 3.10.10, right? So let me go back to the installer, and also you can go to the what's new link, and under what's new link you will have what are the changes being made from Python 3.10 to Python 3.11. So this is a very important thing. If you are working with Python for a long time, you need to keep up to date with the changes, because the Python you used 10 years ago is not the same as today. So there are many changes happen in between. Some features changed and some functions names or the way you use those functions, or some components changed, some library is going to be changed, right? So make sure you stay up to date. When you are using 3.10 and you are now going to 3.11, you will see some of the changes. You have to apply these changes if you are moving your old code to new Python version. So you need to pay attention to that. So maybe your old code will not work because of these changes, or maybe some new bugs can come out as a result of the changes of the Python version. So therefore it is very important for you to check it out. What are the changes is being made from the version you originally developed your code, and the new version you are going to install in your computer, and you are expecting to run the old code on this new version. So please pay attention to that. So every change you need to check. So that is the way you can keep up to date. Okay, so I think you have now enough information about how to use Python programming, how to install Python programming language, and what are the considerations and everything you need to do. The last item in this the dialog box, you will see the disable path length limit. This is not directly related to Python environment or the installation we already completed. This is for the operating system setting, because the operating system the path variable. So in Windows we have a limit of 260 characters. If you wish to have it extended beyond 260 characters, you can change that setting, but that is an optional thing. You don't need to do that really. I'm not going to choose that option. I'm going to simply close this window. Again, we now in a position we can use Python programming language in our computer. So we'll be doing that in next few lessons. Like I said before, we are going to use it, we need to do few more things. Remember, we need to install libraries for data science applications, data science and machine learning applications. What are the libraries? We need to install NumPy. First of all, the NumPy library for numerical and scientific computing. We may install SciPy as a library. That is also for scientific computing, some of the components we need for to do some data science and analytics work. And then we need to install very important library for our work for data visualization, Matplotlib. It is a very useful library in Python. Matplotlib and Seaborn. It's a newer library built on top of Matplotlib, but it has very useful features for your data analysis or any data science work. Then if you want to do machine learning, so we need to install scikit-learn. If you want to do deep learning, we need to install TensorFlow or PyTorch. Those are the base libraries for to do machine learning. Very important library I missed, which is Pandas. Pandas is a library you can use to organize and manipulate your data for your data analysis work. That is a very powerful library. If you all are, I think you all are familiar with Excel or any spreadsheet application. So you know what are the capabilities of a spreadsheet application. In Python, Pandas can do almost all the stuff you are doing with a spreadsheet application plus some additional stuff. It will help you to do data analysis tasks, data visualization, help you to do machine learning, so to organize your data to measure your machine learning projects, machine learning work, and to do any advanced analytics work. So Pandas is a very powerful and very useful library. You should never need to miss out from your project. So therefore we are going to install Pandas library in our computer as well. So those are the main libraries. I will repeat again: NumPy, SciPy, Matplotlib, Seaborn, Pandas, scikit-learn, and TensorFlow. Our base Python installation don't have any of these libraries installed. We are going to install them one by one using Python package index. So pip installer will be the tool for us to install new Python libraries into this base Python installation. I hope you are ready now. So let's move forward with those installation.